The rise initially doesn't offer a lot when you take a quick glance at it, but there was enough there to leave me wanting to give it a shot. Having played and greatly enjoyed other precise platformers, it was easy to want to try it out and see what it had to offer when compared to other similar games. From the start, I didn't like that TR was so small looking. I have no problem with pixel graphics, but playing on my Steam Deck left me wanting to see everything look bigger. Besides that, I liked that it stuck to the same aesthetics/theme. That's how it turned out to be for the 3 themes it had to offer. Within those 3 themes were many levels that eventually added up. I know that I mentioned that TR doesn't seem like much, but I eventually grew to appreciate that. I thought it was straight and to the point. I like that because other games will end up wasting time by prolonging the intro when all I want to do is get to playing. It seemed pretty much like other precise platformers, and depending on your point of view, that's a good or bad thing. For me, that wasn't entirely good or bad. Surprisingly, I started to prefer TR towards the end. The beginning wasn't bad, but if you've played a decent number of precise platformers as I have, it doesn't stand out too much. As for why I started to think more of it towards the end, that's something I'll get into in a bit. TR starts off pretty basic, but it eventually starts to introduce new mechanics/abilities in a well-paced manner. That's worth noting because if it's too soon, you run the risk of being overwhelmed. If it's too late, you run the risk of being bored and dropping it. If I had to sum up this aspect of TR, I'd say that it took its time with this, and in doing so, allowed me to comfortably take in what it had to offer. I've already said that it's similar to other precise platformers, but each usually tends to have its own qualities that require getting used to. With TR, this was seen with how precise I had to be with a trap's timing. If I were to jump into its path, it'd come right at me and kill me almost instantaneously. Once I realized that, I understood that jumping, landing, and then jumping away from the incoming trap had to be done almost all at once. Initially, it came off as a bit intimidating, but it wasn't long before I got the hang of it. Since TR makes use of its intricacies throughout various levels, it's worth really getting the hang of how specific traps work, and what's required to overcome them. If TR had something new for each level, chances are that I'd be overwhelmed and wouldn't have been left thinking as highly of it as I did. I liked how TR got harder when a chase type enemy was introduced, along with a new way of navigating across the level. From the beginning, I was avoiding the time limit/death timer, but then I was also having to deal with this new enemy. I assumed that it'd be used like any of the other past obstacles, but it turned out to be more like a mini boss. From what I recall, these mini bosses were only used a handful of times. With how few times they were used, I straight up wouldn't have included them in TR. If I was set on having mini bosses be a part of TR, I would have had them be part of a level's mid and end point. The point being that they'd be like more conventional bosses rather than how they turned out to be. As I've previously mentioned with other precise platformers I've reviewed, there has to be a balance between being tough yet fair. TR ended up being a great example of that. As cheesy as it may sound, TR made me want to rise up to the occasion, and at times it left me smiling. Smiling in the sense that I recognized how difficult it was, but also knowing that it wasn't impossible to overcome, and also acknowledging the skill that went into making TR turn out how it did. It's the complete opposite of being left wanting to rage quit. This was also seen with how TR approached replay value. You could say that the most basic form of replay value comes from finishing a game and starting over from the beginning. That could be done with TR, but for me it was more about needing carrots/other unlockables in order to move on to subsequent levels. This showed me that TR offered replay value in more ways than one. They were needing to get good enough to speedrun and actually doing it. More than once, there were situations where I needed to learn what was necessary to overcome a level or section's obstacles, and actually being able to do so. This didn't happen all the time, but it happened enough times where I was able to take note of that. It's one thing to make a game harder by throwing more at players, but TR approached this by eliminating skills I'd grown accustomed to. I liked that and thought it was a good way of changing things up. This also showed me how well made TR is. There are games where your collected skills/items are taken away, and it's like all of that was propping the game up. Without its special gimmicks, its flaws are out on display for all to see. That wasn't the case with TR. One of these examples was when dashing was taken away, but movable platforms were introduced. I could see lesser games taken away from you and not trying to make appropriate adjustments. It's how some multiplayer games nerf things in such a way where the result is the game being unplayable. For the most part, by the time I see a game's credit roll, I'll move on to the next game. TR's credits started to roll after completing 60 levels, and it seemed more abrupt than I expected, but I wanted to get more out of it. It's pretty much because I enjoyed TR that much. The optional levels got much harder, but they were doable and fun. You could say that's how the majority of TR came off, so it was easy for me to keep playing longer than was necessary. These optional levels also took away skills that I'd grown used to. I liked how this forced me to focus more on platforming without being able to dash. This led to the levels coming off as even harder than they already did, but what kept me motivated was seeing my own improvement. Even if it was moving forward onto a new section of a level and then immediately dying. If there's even a small bit of hope that I'm skilled enough to move ahead, I'll keep playing until I do. In a nutshell, that's what the Rise had to offer and one of the reasons why I enjoyed it as much as I did. I wouldn't say that the Rise is the greatest game of 2025 that I've played, but it for sure stands out. For me, it was all about the gameplay and how well crafted it was. It didn't need to rely on gimmicks or constantly adding more to the pile in order to attempt to make it stand out. Its approach is less sizzle and more steak. That might not sound appealing to some that prefer games that are flashy or offer innovation, but it's to the point where I see myself recommending the Rise should someone ask for precision platformers worth playing. Does a game have to be flashy in one way or another in order to appeal to you? Has there ever been a time where you enjoyed a game's difficulty? Is knowing that there's still more to be played after a game's credits roll enough to make you want to keep playing? If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much for watching.